welcome to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. My name is Chrissy, and I'm currently in our basement stairwell because I'm heading downstairs to go check out our potatoes. I think it's gonna be the last, pull from our storage for the winter, and that's just fine. And then I'm gonna show you our seedlings, how they're doing, and we're gonna thin them out together, so come check it out. You can see our potato bins here. I've been sorting through here on the left. That's just extra pine shavings. I'm gonna go give that to the chickens. I'm still digging through this one on the right. We have some in the bowl here. You can see that a lot of them have sprouted, and we're gonna go through them. On a non-potato related note, I wanted to give you an update on how our water glass eggs are doing. And they're doing fantastic. Now we've given some away, but we've gone through a couple jars for ourselves. We're still breaking into the ones that we packaged in September of 2021. And they've been in great shape. I just made some scrambled eggs this morning with some water glassed eggs. I found some more people who will take fresh eggs, which is great for us. But you can see here, the water is still very clear. That sediment that you see at the bottom is just that hydrated lime that's settled. That's totally normal. And as we move over here to our more recent ones, this one, I put everything in a jar in middle of January. Those are looking great. We have these containers, which are clear. I have looked in them. It's just the type of plastic that they're in is a bit opaque, so no cloudiness there. So overall, very pleased with this method. We're definitely gonna water glass again and probably stock up on our pickling lime before we need it, because it was very, very hard to find it towards the end of the summer last year. But let's go back to some potatoes. I've got these bins sorted now, so I'm gonna go ahead and dump all those pine shavings into the chicken run. The girls can go ahead and scratch through that. And I'm gonna come back, we'll have a chat about these potatoes and what went right, what went wrong, and what we'll do next year. I feel like this looks like a scene, man. So we got soil in a bowl because we're still planting seeds. I just baked all those eggshells to break them up, and then that's going to be a calcium supplement for the chickens. And we have our potatoes here, whole bunch of eggs, which a number of these are going to be water glassed. And of course our houseplants in the process of watering. So let's talk about potatoes. We do have a mixed bag here, so we have certain ones like this which have sprouted and ones like this which have not sprouted. So I'll clean this up, we'll cook them, but I'm gonna go sit down and we can talk about them. Here's the deal with our potatoes. Our technique was sound, right? So you grow your potatoes, you take them out of the soil, you cure them, dust some of that dried soil off, and then you put them in layers that can breathe so you don't get any mold, and you put them in storage somewhere dark and cool. Okay, that technique is flawless. However, here's what we did wrong. We put them in a place where, number one, there was light exposure from a basement window, right? And number two, it was a bit too warm and dry because of its proximity to our furnace. Those were our big ones. So because of that, we had more issues with sprouting from our potatoes in the top layers of our bins. Now, there was another area of our basement we could have put them in, which is on the other side of our basement, and it's cooler, darker, and more damp. But for me personally, my concern was making sure we didn't have any mold out, because I've seen that and it's nasty. So I think with next year, I think we're gonna like cut up, partially cook, and like freeze most of our potatoes. But I do want to do our storage again. So I'm gonna put it on the other side of the basement and see what happens. Now, if we live somewhere slightly warmer, where we'd be putting the potatoes in the ground like right now instead of at the end of the month, that would have been great. They're already started chitting, which means, you know, you have those sprouts coming up and out of the potato, they're ready to plant. They kept this long, okay, so we were getting fresh potatoes. During the winter, we had some that made it to this point so we can plant them and get another crop. Those are great things. But, you know, if you weren't saving them to use as seed tubers, right, you don't want them to sprout. So next year, pretty much going to do the same technique, just in a different area. I think that reusing the bins that we grew mushrooms in last year was a good idea. I think that gave it adequate airflow. What I do think happened is that the pine shavings actually dried them out even more. So even having like the shavings being a little bit more damp, it might have been good. I think you'd be able to do it in a container that had less holes in it, so like we could plug some of those holes and see how that works out. But those are just some ideas for what we can do next time. I think if you're going to use this technique in your house and use a different container, that would still work really well for you. But I'm excited for it. We're not going to be using these as seed tubers because I have a whole shipment coming in of some different varieties towards the end of the month that we'll go ahead and then chit and then put them outside to grow for this year. It's going to be great. I really liked having potatoes in the house. This is the first time we've been able to keep them, so that's been pretty cool. So that's my 2 cents on that. What I think we're gonna do now is some thinning out, which I'm looking off screen, thinning out of our seedlings we got going, so I'll show you that. Before we get to the seedlings, just wanted to show you, so I thinned out how many potatoes we had. This is the exact same bowl that you saw from before. We lost about 1/3 of them. They were a bit too wrinkly. The sprouts were a bit too long to keep. But these ones are fine. Like, look at this russet. Actually, a lot of the russets did good. Still very firm. So I'm just gonna soak them for a few, get them cleaned up. As you can see, some of them are super dirty. And we're actually gonna be cooking a lot of these for dinner. It's gonna be great. So I'm happy with that as a final use of our stored potatoes. I mean, how great is that? Okay, back to the kitchen table, and we are ready to start thinning these out. And we have a lot of growth and some surprises with our hot peppers, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a close-up for you. Okay, so we have our starts here. I'm just gonna go from this side to this side, and I'll tell you what we have. We have atomic starfish. These 2 cells are shishitos. These 2 cells are serranos. These 2 are Jimmy Nardellos. This is a white Vienna kohlrabi. This cell is kind of a blank cell. It was an experimental one. So that didn't work out, but that's okay. We have 2 cells of Ethiopian eggplant. As you can see, this one is the only one that really did well. And that's great because we wanted to end up with 2 anyways, not 4. So we're gonna keep these 2 going. In this row we have Scotch bonnets and jalapenos. And what's kind of special about it is this little Scotch bonnet and this little jalapeno just popped today. Just came out of the soil. So I'm gonna get some backups going, but there's a possibility that they will come out of those 2 cells very soon. Over here we have our yellow fatales that I thought were duds, and I had some backups going, but it turns out our eBay seeds weren't the best. So I'm really happy these 3 came up. I'm gonna hope another one does. These ones just came up in the last couple days, but I'll try again with the ones that we have. Now over here, we have a whole bunch of greens. You can see pretty much all of them except for this cell, which is our spinach, came up. So we have Cossack kohlrabi, purple Vienna kohlrabi, butter crunch lettuce. We have some late flat Dutch cabbage, early Jersey Wakefield cabbage, tennis ball lettuce, slow bolt lettuce, dinosaur, this is Lucindo kale. This is blue curled Scotch kale, tatsoi mustard, Mibuna mustard. Oops, it's okay, I was thinning them out anyways. Give that to the cat. This is dwarf Siberian kale, Paris Island romaine lettuce, or spinach that didn't come up, and some Mizuna bene. Oh, just Mizuna for right here. So we're gonna thin them out. Now, as you can see, there's cat. I'm gonna get her out of here. You can see some of them are a bit lanky, and that's because of the way I have my lights set up. I just haven't had a chance to stay on top of it to keep them from leaning. So that's okay. We're gonna get these strengthened up a little bit. I'm gonna put a fan in there, and we're gonna thin these out. And those do just fine. As you can see, our peppers are doing great. Now, I like to wait for the second set of leaves to come up on most plants before I thin them back, and you can see a lot of them have that. So that's what we're gonna do with these peppers. I wanna end up with 4 of each, and fortunately, we've had great germination on most of them. So let me get you a different angle. I'll show you what I'm doing. If you are in the group of folks who are new to seed starting, or maybe just new to hot peppers, this is what you're gonna look for when you're growing them. And let's keep that from blowing out. When I say the second set of leaves, you can see, whoops, you can see right here, this is the first set of leaves that'll come out. Looks kind of like a pepper leaf, but not really. And then here in the middle, that's the second set of leaves. So when they're at this point, I'm pretty confident that they will survive. So I'm comfortable with thinning them out. Now over here, it's a little different when you're considering greens. As you can see, this one, first leaf, second leaf here in the middle. But it's a little different with lettuce. So lettuce, obviously, I seeded that quite heavily, and I did that on purpose. We're gonna thin it out because I wanna have about 5 of each of these. So we're gonna go through and give them the snip. And the best way to do that is to just look at what you have and keep the strongest ones. So it looks like this one and this one are doing the best in here. So I'm gonna give that a little snip. Give that one a snip. And it's that easy. Now that we have 2 peppers in this cell, we are gonna let those, okay, mild technical malfunction, but we're back. So basically I'm gonna leave these 2 in this cell until they get bigger. I like to wait until I see roots coming out the bottom. You can see some of them are doing that already. But we're gonna let them get a few inches taller before we start separating them, and we're gonna keep working for them to be stronger. So while we had our technical malfunction, I went through and just thinned these out. for our brassicas, we're gonna try to do 4 in a cell until they get bigger. 4 or 5, depending on the variety. So I'll go through, clean this up, and show you what it looks like. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. This is just the way I do it. But if you're gonna do it this way, it's very important to take your time, go through slowly. You can even use some of the soil to prop stuff up. And you'll be able to thin it out. So we got some of them going now. And we got one more section to go. Okay, here's the final product. Yes, you can absolutely let them keep growing before you separate them. I just like to do it at this point. Doesn't mean I'm right, it doesn't mean you're wrong. So that looks great. So we're gonna go ahead and put it back. I've put these back in here. We had some technical difficulties today, so we're just picking up. We finished everything. It's looking great. I didn't get a chance to do it right now, but I'm gonna put a second light in here. So this light can move over here, and then I'll have one over here. This will be floating over these 2 bits of plastic. They look great. And if you're looking up here, I didn't get a chance to put my live on YouTube yet. That's okay. But afterwards I realized there was some other stuff I didn't start, so I got that going. Not everything has come up yet, but it's doing alright. And we thinned out some of this stuff as well. So I gotta go back down into the basement and get something. So I figured I'd just shoot this really quick. Pending any other technological malfunctions today, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for joining me. I hope any of this was helpful for you. If it was and you want to say thanks, we do have Cash App and Venmo. You can find that in our link tree down in the description. You can also find our other social media presences. We have a Facebook page and discussion group, which is starting to grow, and I'm really excited to see what everyone else is growing at this time of year. If you have any questions, please leave comments. I'm happy to answer them. And I'm excited to show you how our seedlings do in another few weeks from now. I hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.